Ah, evening gang, your boy Matt Shaw here, and I'm here to tell you a bit about the Draft League. Ideally, I would have done this in person when we've had the whole gang together, as it were, but COVID is still a thing, so I'm just making this as a classic YouTube video. Also, be sure to subscribe, give us your Twitch primes, and all that good stuff. I think we're up to 9 subscribers right now, so let's try and beat Fusing Pegasus, right? He's our challenge. He is our T-Series. Anyway, without further ado, what is Draft League? It's a Pokemon format where you are a coach. So you have to draft a team, and you get your own nice sports name and whatever, and you draft 11 Pokemon, and then every week you go against someone else who's done the same thing, and then you bring 6 of those 11 to a game every week, and you can change up the sets, items, abilities, all that good stuff. And it creates a really fun format. And yeah, a lot of language comes from its roots in it's like fantasy football draft. Some guy sort of combined the two and it just kind of stuck like that. So if you hear people say coaches or like trades or playoffs or anything like that, that's where it comes from. So there's 3 main stages to it. The drafting phase, the main series, which everyone competes in, and then the top cut, which only the top half will compete in. So it's a particularly good format, because what it means is you can take these underrated mons that normally would never see any usage in something like OU or UU or anything like that, and then have it put in work. And you can also pull off a lot of fun gimmicks, like, I remember, oh god, what was it? Iron Ball, Whimsicott, that was a really fun one last time, and yeah, it's sort of like, it really encourages creativity. Obviously, when drafting, you're encouraged to build sort of like a variety, get lots of different stuff, and sort of build the kind of team you want. And of course, prizes will be on the line. So don't do it for yourself. Do it for Ricky. That is what you'd be playing for. Ricky Martin trading cards. And maybe Fortnite trading cards, if by popular request. It was mainly there to just fill up space, but I could get some Fortnite cards. So I'll go through the first phase. Drafting. So each coach has their order in a draft randomized. We've already done that. You can find the order in the Draft League Discord. Pokemon are drafted in a snake draft order, so the person who's first drafts one, then the person who's second drafts one, and so on and so on, until you get to the last person. The last person gets to pick 2 in a row, and then it goes to the person who was before them in the order. You can sort of see on the diagram there. I think everyone gets it easily enough. The thing that makes this draft league different is previously we've done it so every Pokemon is put in a tier, and then those tiers correspond to points, and you have to get certain things from every tier and so on. But in this one, it's just a lot more simple. Everything just has a point value. Best example is Landorus Ferian gets 18 because it does a lot of things, and Coach has got 120 points that it can get any 11 Pokemon with. So this means while you might want loads of strong things, if you do that, you then have to balance out with weak things. It is specifically in the rules that you must draft 11 Pokemon, so you can't just draft 8 good ones and call it a day. You may draft a Mega, but you're not obligated to. I would, however, highly recommend getting one, because Megas are just incredibly powerful. You can't draft more than one, though, so you can't be clever and bring, like, Mega Camerups and Mega God of War to the same game or anything like that, or just have them on the same roster. It just ensures that everyone can get a decent Mega. So once that's done and everyone's picked their 11 Pokemon, there'll then be a 48-hour grace period where you can make changes to your team if you so wish. After this point, you are given trades. Each coach is, to my knowledge, getting free, unless we decide to change that all of a sudden. And then, basically, for the rest of the season, that means you can make up to 3 trades. You're also allowed to make an unlimited amount of trades with other coaches. So if you can convince someone to swap their God of War for your Clefable, as long as it works within the point system and you don't go over 120 points, that is completely fine. So phase 2 is the battling. So ideally, the week will start on the Monday. You then contact your opponent and you agree upon a day. Let's say you agree Saturday afternoon. So you have to battle that opponent on the Saturday afternoon, and before that you need to prepare your team. So you decide which 6 you're bringing, take a look at what you think they're bringing, build for what you think they're bringing, and look at what has a good matchup versus them. Obviously, you'll never guess exactly right what they're going to bring, but half of Draft League is preparing, so the coach who's better prepared more often than not will win. The way we determine wins actually goes off differential. So in a Pokemon battle, let's say I beat my opponent and I have 3 of my 6 Pokemon left, I get a differential score of +3, and my opponent will get a score of -3. That then all gets recorded on a doc, and we use that to calculate who is positioned where in the overall league. The league will go off wins and losses, but then differential as like the secondary one. Think of it like Mario Party, of like wins and losses are the stars, and and differential is the coins. So that's how we decide potential ties. In Draft League, most of the clauses are exactly the same. So your standard ones: evasion, species, sleep, baton pass, Oko, moody. They're all pretty standard. The baton pass one, though, it should be noted. So you can use baton pass and it can pass substitute. However, it cannot pass any stats. This is to stop annoying sort of things of just baton passing speed to a Hooper Unbound, or like loads of attack to something ridiculous. Yeah. Anyway, so phase 3, top cut. That's the closest picture I could find. According to Google, it's a haircut. So in this, there will be 12 coaches. So the top cut is the top 6. So the top 6 go into a single elimination tournament where 5th place will play 3rd place and 4th place will play 6th place of round 1. In round 2, the winner of these will go off to play 1st and 2nd respectively. And then at that point in the finals, there's two people left. The people who lost can then try and play for 3rd and 4th, but they're not obligated to. And yeah, the champion should be pretty self-explanatory. It'll be made so the winner will get 2 Ricky Martin packs and the loser will get 1. Well, 2nd place gets 1 pack, I mean. So, what to draft? That's the question I think everyone's wondering. It really depends on what kind of thing you want. There's a wide variety of ways you can play. Popular strategies, we see Stall. Obviously, Space Shark, winner of the previous league. He is quite fond of Stall, and as you've seen, it's quite effective. So that's a lot of... you focus a lot more on bulk, less on offense, which means you sort of like... you win battles of attrition and sort of wear down your opponent. On the complete opposite end, you go hyper offense. You think, forget bulk, I'm just going to keep attacking and attacking, and you just keep a lot of pressure on your opponent, and they have to keep switching out, which very, very prediction heavy, but sort of high risk, high reward. Very, very fun, I must say. And within those, you got to think about cores. So this is the idea of like a couple of mons, typically 2 or 3, which synergize really well with each other and cover each other's weaknesses really well. So it's from these cores you can sort of like, you know, something to add to your team, gives it a really sort of solid backbone and sort of really good for when you're building. Equally, you could just have Bulu. Luke, looking at you. You got to win with Bulu this time. So certain draft teams, as much as you want to have whatever you like, there are certain times where your team needs certain things to function. The first and most important one is a Fairy Dragon Steel core. So they cover each other's weaknesses. You know, the fire weakness of Steel is covered by the dragon, and the fairy weakness is covered by the steel. The fairy weakness of the dragons is covered by Steel, and so on and so on. It's a really good core both offensively and defensively. A good example is Scizor, Garchomp, Sylveon. They're more expensive. Budget options do exist. Another important thing is Stealth Rock setters. You need probably at least 2, I would say. I've seen people draft 1, but it means that thing is bringing Stealth Rocks every week, which on something like Landorus Therian would really ruin variety. So try and get at least 2 of them. Hazard removers, equally important. So Stealth Rocks are absolutely huge in competitive singles, as I'm sure most of you know. So it's very important you have ways to remove it. You have both Defog and Rapid Spin. I highly recommend you get at least 1 of each, because if you only have Rapid Spin, your opponent knows they can block your hazard removal with ghost types. And if you only have Defog, it means things with Defiant can take advantage of that and gain attack boosts off your Defogs. Defog is, of course, the better of the two, since a lot of top tier ones get Defog. The other big important one is speed tiers. I've seen this a lot. It's important to get something that gets above that base 110 speed tier. Otherwise, your opponent who has the faster thing can just bring that and just outspeed your entire team. It's also good to have a sort of good balance of speed tiers, so something within the 110 to 100 range is also really valuable. Next big one, ground immunity. So odds are you will draft a flying and or levitate user. Basically, Earthquake is an incredibly easy move to spam. Base 100 power, base 100 accuracy with things like Lando T, Garchomp, Crocodile around. So it's very important that you have something that can stop them from just freely clicking ground moves. And of course, another thing that's really important is pivots. So pivoting in Pokemon is where you sort of switch out on the turn. So you would use U-turn, Volt Switch, Teleport, Parting Shot, Baton Pass. There's a fair few of them, and what that does is it means you can get the favourable the mon with the better matchup in, and that's sort of a big part. So fast U-turns of things like Mega Beedrill are great, and slow Baton Passes, something like Sylveon, also have a lot of use. So I highly recommend you get some of them. And then there's some things that you should probably get. These are not essential, but most teams will probably get them. Unless you're playing a certain play style, you should probably get them. So what about entry hazards? Sticky Web, Toxic Spikes, all of which are great, but not all teams need them. For instance, Stall doesn't particularly need Sticky Webs, and Hyper Offense doesn't particularly need Toxic Spikes. Spikes in general are good on a variety of play styles. So it's probably worth picking up, at least one of these. I would say particularly Hyper Offense needs Sticky Webs more, and Stall probably wants Spikes and Toxic Spikes more. Also, the Fire, Water, Grass core. I would argue that Water and Grass is pretty essential, especially if you want to build balance. Because the bulky Water type and the bulky Grass type, they make up, they're really good defensively. But certain teams can manage without Fire types, particularly Rain. Because the defensive stuff that a Fire type does can be done by other types. So it's not an essential. Also you have Clerics. These are, unless you're building Hyper Offense, you probably need a Cleric. So this is something that carries typically Wish and Heal Bell. Sometimes you can split the role up, like I've had Salamence and Miltank in the past, as a more unusual one. The vast majority of the time, they are either a Fairy type, an Evolution, or a normal type. So, particularly Fairies are good ones like Sylveon, Florges, Togekiss. Your Evolutions, Espeon, well, not Espeon, but Umbreon, Vaporeon. I've even seen Jolteon try it. Or some of the normal types are good cheap ones, like Licky, Kangaskhan, Ordino. Yeah, they're sort of very viable, gives your team a lot more longevity, and means something like Life Orb doesn't have the same drawbacks. I'd say particularly with Gen 8 coming around, Dark types have become better as a consequence of Ghost getting better. So Pursuit is an incredibly useful one. It is allowed in this league, so the ability to take their spin blockers, or their Ghost types, sort of get rid of them early on, is a really valuable thing that you can do. And also it's nice because some of the more defensive ones give you a good switch into knockoff, which we'll come to in a minute. Obviously, Ghost types are then by default good because they have the ability to block Rapid Spin, which has since been buffed. And they also provide nice utility of sort of normal and fighting immunity, Will-O-Wisp, those sort of things. Particularly good ones, I think. Things like Mimikyu, Dusclops, Gengar's always good. And then, of course, we have the move Knockoff. Memes aside, it is an incredible move in singles because it's base 65 but gets a 50% power boost when it knocks off an item. So that's a base 97.5 power move. Certain teams, particularly more frail teams, so on the offense side, they really struggle to switch into knockoffs because nothing wants to lose its item. So it's particularly good to get something like a fighting type or a mega that doesn't mind being hit by a knockoff. You can manage without this, but nothing wants to lose its item, really. So, on about cores. So, obviously, Fire, Water, Grass, Fairy, Dragon, Steel, they're ones that are very mix and matchable, but there's certain combinations of some Pokemon which is just proven time and time again to work well. First of all, Tapu Koko and Mega Medicham. So, Tapu Koko provides the Volt Switch, U-turn, defog screens that Mega Medicham can really abuse to punch massive holes in the opposing team. Particularly good if you're thinking about sticky webs or you just want hyper offense in general. I will say Hyper Offense these days more often than not brings sticky webs. Similar thing with Vikavolt and Bisharp, so the ability to set webs is particularly good for something like Bisharp, which is a bit slower. And if they want to get rid of them, then they're probably going to have to defog, which activates Defiance. That's like a good combo. It's banned this time, but we've seen in the previous Draft League and the one before it, Zygarde and Mega Gardevoir are incredibly effective because they've got good bulk and can set up and just they punch massive holes. Zygarde you could probably substitute for something like Salamence or Garchomp these days, but yeah, it's very much a core I would recommend. It did me well. Obviously we have Weather, so Excadrill and Tyranitar is considered probably the best one. The Sandsetter is very variable. You know, you could have Hippowdon or Hippopotas or Gigalith. There's a fair few options there, but Excadrill, just Sword Stances under Sand, it's just very difficult to wall. Very strong combo. I will also say this generation, I think Hippowdon plus Dracozolt could have a lot of potential, particularly with hidden ability Sandrush being allowed, and in theory Dracovish gets Sandrush, so that could potentially see viability. Rain, so I would argue Rain has gotten worse since the previous generation, whereas Generation 7 it sort of dominated. You know, it was a very reliable playstyle in draft and competitive, but a lot more things getting freeze dries kind of took a hit for it. So Purple plus Mega Swampert is still amazing, or an underrated Mega on Rain is Mega Scizor because it gets resistance to fire. Yeah, so obviously Rain has the nice bonus of there's so many things that function under Rain, but I would say kind of focus on trying to mitigate that ice weakness. And then as we move more into sort of like your balanced sort of styles, let's say Heatran plus Tapu Bulu. So this is just the combo that covers itself so well. I would, if your name is Luke and you're getting Bulu, I'd definitely recommend you get Heatran with it. Sort of Grassy Terrain helps cover Heatran's ground weakness. Steel helps cover Bulu's poison weakness, and you know, and Heatran really likes the reliable recovery that, well, the better recovery that Grassy Terrain gives it. As we move more into sort of like bulky, sort of almost getting towards stall, we have Slowbro and Amoonguss, and there are other regenerator cores that this sort of applies to. The idea that they can keep switching around, you can either play that as try and get in your more bulky things, or just try and sort of stall out your opponent because they can't break your regenerator combos. Slowbro and Amoonguss is particularly good because it's one of the cheaper cores. So Slowbro and Amoonguss, I think Slowbro is 13, Amoonguss is 12, so it's something particularly if you wanted a cheaper core, very reliable, and obviously comes with a nice utility of Teleport and Slowbro now. As we move more towards your stall, you get Skarmory and Blissey. Scar and Bliss is something that has existed since Gen 2. They do cover each other incredibly well, particularly with that gives you Stealth Rock, Spikes, Reliable Recovery, Wish, Heal Bell. It's just a great thing that's just incredibly tough to break. And in terms of stall, I'd say particularly Toxapex plus Mew is a very notorious one, because that gets you... Because Mew's versatility means it plays defensively, and with Toxapex being an annoying regenerator mon, it's an incredibly tough core to break, especially with, you know, 9 other stall mons. I often see it paired with Tangrowth, because then you've also got regenerator core going for you. And of course, Mega Aggron, arguably the best mon for stall in the game, because Filter means it's taking less damage, and it has a good damage output, which really sort of whittles down opposing teams. Which combined with a Lola Mola, which is actually quite a cheap option, might be 9 or 10 points or something, means you can keep it healed up healthy and really irritate your opponent. Yeah, that's all I have to say, and yeah, this will obviously be going up on the York Pokésoc YouTube channel. If you have any questions, ping me in the Discord, or yeah, also while I'm here, shout outs to Fusing Pegasus for just being Fusing Pegasus. Go and sub to him, and yeah, bye bye.